Hello, everyone. Welcome to Everything Arsenal. And this is the latest transfer news. We have some reports, some breaking updates from Italy in regards to Victor Osimhen. And let's get straight into it. These are the reports coming out, and this is what it has to say. Arsenal will make an attempt to sign Victor Osimhen in the coming days. Arsenal are seeking to negotiate a lower fee than the 130 million release clause in Osimhen's contract. Napoli will have to evaluate the pros and cons. So, according to reports from close sources to Napoli, Arsenal are planning to make an offer for Victor Osimhen in the next couple of days. Now, again, it's very hard to predict what Arsenal are going to do this transfer window in terms of striker, in terms of midfield, in terms of winger, and it's a hard market. It's not an easy market. There's not too many teams who are willing to pay 130 million. That's why you're not hearing anyone who currently wants Osimhen apart from Arsenal and some Saudi clubs. You're not really hearing anything about Gyökeres. You're not going to hear anything about Isaac. You're not going to hear anything about Watkins because these players are really expensive. You can even throw in the midfielders like Bruno Guimaraes and all of these players. It's going to be a hard market with all the FFP issues going on. You have to be careful, especially after we spent 100 on 105 on Declan Rice, 65 on Havertz. Then the very next season, you have to be very careful in terms of how you spend your money. You don't want to get yourself into FFP problems. But I do assume we have some budget to use. We obviously qualify for the Champions League. We went all the way to the quarterfinals, and there's players who we are going to sell. So I'm hoping we can spend at least 160, 70 million this transfer window. Now, with that said, Osimhen has already told Arsenal. We've already had reports that Arsenal are willing to get Osimhen from there, and Osimhen is willing to join Arsenal. Arsenal is the only team that wants him in the Premier League. Chelsea don't want him anymore, and he wants to play in the Premier League. So all that favors us, but the money is the problem. If Victor Osimhen was around 70 million, I think a lot of teams would have wanted him. Arsenal, Chelsea again, Man United, Liverpool, Man City, Bayern Munich, PSG, all of those teams would have wanted him. But that price is a problem. But we are told that Arsenal are willing to make an offer for him. Now, what is the offer? We are going to talk about that one. But first up, Napoli do need to sell Victor Osimhen. We were told a couple of days ago that Victor Osimhen needs to leave, so Napoli spend that money to buy other players. And on top of that, Antonio Conte doesn't really want Victor Osimhen. He prefers to get Lukaku in the team. So in terms of that, that really favors us because Osimhen himself wants to leave. The team wants to get rid of him. The new manager wants to get rid of him. They need to sell him to get other players in. So all that favors us. It's very different from what you talked about in the podcast earlier today with because in terms of Gyökeres. They don't really need to sell him. As it was reported yesterday, they don't really need to sell Gyökeres at all. They have other players who they can sell. I think Diomande has been linked. I think it's Inacio as well. So Sporting have like 3-4 other players who've been linked with moves away who they can sell and get the money back and use that money to spend elsewhere. For Gyökeres, they don't really have to sell him at all. And I don't think Gyökeres really wants to leave. I'm not sure about that one. And they don't really need that money right now. And they feel like, yes, they can still score goals next season. That is different. For Osimhen, it's very different. He wants to leave. He's happy with moving on. I think after he signed his contract in January, there was kind of an agreement that he's going to leave very soon. Napoli need to get rid of him. The new manager doesn't want him. So in terms of all that, it favors us. It's very different from the Gyökeres one. Despite Osimhen being more expensive, all the euros and pounds thing gets confusing. I think it's 130 million euros, 120 million euros, which is like around 110 million pounds or something like that for Osimhen. And for Gyökeres, it's 110 million. 110 million, around 105 million euros, which is around 85 million pounds. So it's a lot confusing. It's very, very confusing, the both of them. So how much money are we willing to make the offer for Victor Osimhen? How much are we willing to offer? So according to reports, as far as we know, despite the monster offer from the Saudi Pro League, Victor Osimhen does not want to go to Saudi Arabia. Arsenal does not value him at 120 million euros, but just over half that, which is 75 million euros. Wow. So I'm guessing that is what we value him at. That doesn't necessarily mean that's the first offer we are going to make. We could make an offer of like 60 million euros. We could make something more than that, but we value him at 75 million euros. Now, I still kind of think that is low. Even if I was making an offer for Osimhen, or Osimhen's team, I'd want something like 90 million euros to be fair. I'd be looking at 90 million euros, maybe 30 million euros less than what is his release clause is at this very moment, because he's still a player who can score goals. He's not like very old, and he just signed a new contract. And we've seen him playing in France before, scoring goals. He scored goals in Italy before. He's won the league with them. He's played in Germany before, so he has a bit more going for him than Gyökeres, for example. Played in different countries and all that, and he scored goals and he's won the league there. Gyökeres has as well, but you know what I mean. Osimhen, in terms of levels, like, is closest to world class, I guess. Over the last couple of years, the striker has been talked about a lot over the last couple of years. So the player himself does not really want to go to Saudi Arabia, and I actually applaud that, because for his age and the things he needs to achieve fast, I don't think it's time yet to go to Saudi Arabia. Ronaldo could go to Saudi Arabia. He'd already won the Champions League 5 times. He'd won the Premier League. He'd won the La Liga. He'd won, he'd won the Serie A. He'd come back to his childhood team in Man United. He's played in Sporting before. So Ronaldo had already done everything. So he could easily go to Saudi Arabia after already known, okay, you know what, I've won all the titles, I'm the top scorer, international top scorer, and everything like that, and the Champions League top scorer of all time. But for Osimhen, he still has a lot to achieve. I'm sure he'd want to win the Premier League, he'd want to compete for the Premier League, he'd want to compete for La Liga, he'd want to win the La Liga, he'd want to win the Champions League. So he's a player who would want to still achieve much more. And then maybe in the next 4 or 5 years, if obviously everything is going on in Saudi Arabia, still he can move on there. That's what he should do. Right now, it's very tricky for him to go there. I don't think it's the best idea now, unless he literally doesn't get any team at all that wants him, and no one is. I'm sure every team would want him. Let me correct that. Every team would want him, or most team would want him. The only problem is the money. If there's no team that is ready to pay the money and Napoli don't want him, it's either Napoli take the price down and just say, you know what, fine, we'll just give you at 80 million, or he ends up staying there. So it's one of the two. Or then, or after that, he says, okay, listen, there's no other team that wants me. Let me just move on to Saudi Arabia for a year or something and then come back later. He can do that. But he doesn't seem like he wants to go to Saudi Arabia right now. And he's not too many teams are valuing him at that 120 million euros. I think that's a lot of money as well. In terms of obviously injuries and all that, I think that's a lot of money. The thing is, though, with strikers, I think you have to pay the premium for strikers. I don't think you can get like a 10 million strike and then he comes and bangs in 20 goals for you. You can get cheaper. Seska 150 million is still a good striker. You can get others at 50, 60 million. But the names we're talking about, Isaac, Osimhen, and players like that who are going to take us to the next level, you're going to have to pay 100 million plus for those players. Now, will we pay that 100 million? Will we end up getting Osimhen? Now, it depends on a lot of stuff. As we say, it depends on the budget. I don't even think playing style is a huge issue. I don't think he would get a lot of chances at Arsenal, but I don't think he would get, like, for example, the quicker passes that you'd want, like, to get in behind, because the way we play is different. But let's focus on the budget. As we've always said, it depends on the budget. Are we willing to spend 80% of our budget on one player, on Victor Osimhen, and then we can only sign maybe one player after that, maybe a 20 million winger or a 20 million midfielder or a 20 million left back? We still need a goalkeeper if Ramsdale leaves. What are we going to do in terms of that? Unless our budget is higher than that and you don't know about it, then that makes sense. After that, then that makes sense. But if we don't have enough offer in terms of money to spend after buying Osimhen, after bidding for Osimhen, then it becomes very strange, unless they're really cooking something. Because in my head, I'm hoping that Edu and Atta are cooking something for us, because you never know. You never know. Last time they spent 105 million on Declan Rice, we had never spent that kind of money on any player at all. We'd never ever even come close to spending 100 million. But maybe this time we've signed Declan Rice, and then the next one you also sign another big player. That would be great. Now, the other thing we usually say about Arsenal and every other team, in terms of becoming a big team, you don't want to become a big team for only one season, compete for the league for 2 seasons, and then you maybe make big signings in one season, and then the next season you're back to normal, back to 5th, 6th place, and then maybe not buying big players. No. You want to buy big players every single summer, Get Declan Rice this transfer window, get Victor Osimhen next transfer window. If you still can't win the league, or if you win it and you want to retain it the next season, you go and you buy Xavi Simons. Like, you just keep on improving the team every single time to keep on competing with Man City. Because if you want to stay up there for a longer time, a longer period, and not, drop off within 1 year or 2 years, you have to keep on improving your team. And one of the ways you can improve our team is Osimhen. Now, the other thing is, do we really need a striker? Now, I've made my opinion clear on that one. I think Arsenal can still score 85 goals even without a striker. But to keep on improving the team, we need to get a striker, because you never know. With Man City, if we aren't competing with Man City, we can probably win the league with the team that we have right now without having to worry about signing a striker, anything like that. But since we're competing with Man City, you have to keep on improving the team. We might get Osimhen and still not win the league. We still finish 1 point behind Man City. You can't just sit there and be like, okay, fine, now we can't win the league. Now you have to go again. You have to go and maybe even add Gyökeres next time. You have to keep on improving the team, because Man City will spend money. They spent 100 million on Grealish. They don't even use him. They spent another, I don't know, 80, 90 million on Gvardiol. He can play sometimes. He can't. Sometimes he even plays out of position, not even as a centre back. They can go and spend 60, 70 million on Haaland. They can go and get an Ederson. They can go and get linked to a Doku for 50 million or something. So Man City will keep on improving the team. So unfortunately, to compete with them, you also have to keep on spending money and trying to get linked to players like this. It's great that nowadays we're being linked to players like this, players like Osimhen and players like Gyökeres, because 2-3 years ago, it'd never been linked to a player like Gyökeres. So hearing that you'd actually want to join Arsenal, that's really good. So let's see what is going to happen in the next couple of days. But this is the latest report. Arsenal will make an attempt to sign Victor Osimhen in the coming days. Arsenal are seeking to negotiate a lower fee than 130 million release clause in Osimhen's contract. So the pounds and euros thing, as I've told you guys, is very confusing, because I can see on that screenshot it has 130 million in pounds, but I think that is in euros. So a lot of reporters are reporting different things in different currencies, so it will become confusing. But I think the actual figure is between 120 million and 130 million euros, which is around, let's say, 100 million, 110 million pounds, somewhere like that. Let's just say somewhere between 100 and 130 million. It depends on euros and pounds. But if you're just working in pounds, it's around 100 million. But in terms of euros, around 120 and 130 million euros. So hopefully that is not too confusing. But Arsenal do value him at 75 million euros, which is around I mean, is that around 25, around, let's say 50 million less than what Napoli would want for him. So listen, I know some of you'd say, just pay the money, just pay the money. Nah, that's not how transfers work. If you just pay the money for like a Declan Rice, would have paid 150 million and stuff. You have to negotiate. The thing is, with Declan Rice, for example, if you had said, okay, here's 105 million, West Ham would have said, oh, no, actually, it's not 105 million. You want 140. So I know it's a release clause for Osimhen, but you can pay a different figure if they just really want to sell him and they're desperate to sell him. But you can't just go and say, okay, here's the 130 million or whatever. No, you have to negotiate. You have to try and take it down to help your budget and to worry about FFP issues and all that. You have to care about all that. So Victor Osimhen, fast offer soon. Let us hope. So let me know what you make of that. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch up with you guys on the next